And you found us. Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my takeout, Emil Amok's takeout, because this is what we do. You have a meal, you take it out, you eat it. No, I'm a news guy, so we look at the news and we share our thoughts. We subtitle the show WDAAAT, What Does an Asian American Think? Because no one cares. Although, excellent article today in The Atlantic talking about Stephen Chung. You want to know who's the man behind Donald Trump? It's a Japanese, Chinese, Asian American. His mother's Japanese, father's Chinese. And he has taken to, he's a young guy, he's in his 40s, so he hasn't seen all the James Bond movies like Goldfinger. But people say, hey, with your bald head, you look like the Godfather's Odd Job. And in fact, he does, because he's, rotund, he's bald head, and he's taken to wearing a bowler hat like Odd Job, who used his hat as a weapon. Stephen Chung uses his fingers, and so there's this excellent article. I mean, I've always wondered about Stephen Chung. When I say wondered, I say, who's this? What does Donald Trump have about? He's got a thing for bald-headed Asians. He loves Stephen Chung, who's his communications director. Pardon me for my cord keeps hitting my microphone. But he loves Stephen Chung, right? Stephen Chung is the voice. And he also loves the guy known as his body man, Walt Nauta, who is Guamanian, Filipino. It's a bon mélange. He's from Guam. And, of course, he was the co-conspirator in that Mar-a-Lago suit, or Mar-a-Lago case that was thrown out by the pro-Trump judge. And we always wondered, well, what's going to happen to Walt Nauta? He's going to get it. Now, Walt Nauta is the Trump body man and doing well, former Navy guy, and Stephen Chung, and both of them, Stephen Chung, Nauta, shaved head. It's a Trump look. And I guess that's one way to identify the Asian Americans who are Trumpy. Those without hair love Trump. Those without hair love Trump. Those with hair, who knows who they love? They're like undeclared. But if you're bald or have shaved your head, I guess all the monks are for Trump. I don't know. I don't think Trump has an ascetic bone in his body similar to a monk. But anyway, just something first thing I noticed in the morning as I scrolled up all the different news sources, Stephen Chung. And if you'll see him cited every now and then. Former UFC communications guy, loved politics, started in California. He's from California, from Sacramento, where I was last night. Punchline. I didn't play. I was watching one of my favorite comedians, a guy named Jeffrey Osmus, who straddles between insulting liberals and conservatives. So he really is an equal opportunity offender, but all in fun. And then you're just harmless, but he's funny. So in the comedian's craft, he's funny. And yeah, go see him on YouTube, Jeffrey Osmus. Funny. Just flat out funny comedian. And even better live. So I got to meet him after, congratulated him, good show. But, it made me think, if you're going to be a comedian, yeah, the point is laughter, but there's also this idea that, don't you want to also make a point? I think I don't know. I mean, I think you would also want to change the show slide. This is show 850. You kind of want to make an impact, not just in the last, but don't you want to make people think? But if your premise is that people are stupid, which is funny because are they stupid? Or, I mean, yeah, kind of. And then they walk away with thinking that they can ignore you. I know this is the comic's dilemma. You know, everyone wants to have an impact as a comic in terms of like be the philosopher, be the man or woman who makes a point and makes people laugh and think. That would be the paradox. Oh, he made me laugh and he made me think. And sometimes you should just be happy that you made people laugh. But you want more, right? You still want more. Anyway, it was a good show. Jeffrey Osmus, he's no longer at the Punchline. It was like a one night only thing. He might be in the Bay Area, but definitely a comedian to follow. Jeffrey, not Goofrey. He spells it Geoffrey. Jeffrey. So I'm in Sacramento. That's the hometown of Stephen Chung and Cheung. And really, I've often, when I've seen Chung, I've wondered, where is this guy? Where's he from? I mean, he worked in Stephen Posner's gubernatorial campaign for the Republicans, which of course failed. Stayed within the GOP. His father is an immigrant, not necessarily political. His parents, so they're probably around. You know, he could be my son. Thank goodness. Thank goodness he's not. But he's from Northern California. Worked his way through UFC, and now he's the head of White House communications. And he will be, once Trump is gone, he will be the Asian American political voice. I mean, really. I mean, if you want a pundit, he's working his way up to punditry. That's how you do it. Were you a spokesperson for someone? I was the head of communications. You watch. If Trump gets voted out, Stephen Chung will be on Fox News. They may even give him his own show. 5 years. He'll be in his 50s and will be subjected to Stephen Chung. Not that, I mean, people say he's a nice guy, but on the issues, look, if you're a hired gun for Trump, you've got to do what Trump does, right? And you got to position it in the way that Trump loves. And Trump loves this guy. Loves his one-liners. Loves the fact that he's essentially a professional troll. Anyway, for people who follow my takes on Asian America, that's my take on Stephen Chung. Funny, but we don't necessarily see eye to eye on politics, certainly. Certainly not on immigration. We'll talk about that a little later. AP put out something that's kind of interesting about the issues that are the issues where Trump is strong, Trump not strong. All right, so yeah, I was just somewhat obsessed with the Stephen Chung article in The Atlantic. Catch it if you can. Only to know who's behind Donald Trump. An Asian American conservative who's playing around with wearing a bowler hat like Oddjob in the movie Goldfinger. The bad guy in the James Bond film. Now you know. This weekend, people keeping Signalgate alive. I'm keeping Signalgate alive. A lot of people trying to kill Signalgate. But how can Signalgate die? It's not done. This is just the beginning of Signalgate. So in the Inquirer.net, I wrote my article, my column on Pete Hegseth. While Hegseth hides in Manila, Signalgate and Senator Duckworth demand his head. Senator Tammy Duckworth called Hegseth a effing liar. This is during the week. Hegseth was in Malacanang Palace in the Philippines, just doing his, going from Hawaii to Asia, stopping off in America's really most important ally in the Pacific. It's got a base. All right, you said Korea. They've got military positions in Korea. Yeah, but was Korea ever a colony of the United States? Was Korea and its democracy made in the, in the model of the United States? No. I mean, the Philippines DNA or the United States DNA is in the Philippines politically. That's why it's important that Pete Hegseth was at least going through there. But was there any kind of news of that here in the United States? No, zero news. I mean, not zero. There was like a little crawl on the screen at CNN yesterday. There was maybe a little mention. Essentially, Pete Hegseth was hiding, staying out of view. And if you want to stay out of view, where to go except the Philippines? Where people say, oh, it's so far away. It's from California alone, it's 16 hours. So it's like almost a whole day. It screws up everyone if they cover the Philippines in real time. It's like 22 hours ahead from Washington, from, New York, the East Coast. 16, right? I think 16 hours from California. So yeah, that's why you go to Hawaii, you cool out, then you go to the Philippines. Anyway, he was hiding out, and it worked. People essentially forgot about Hegseth. From maybe the most egregious person who did something on that Signal chat. People are now looking at Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz is named in a Washington Post article as, well, he's not going to get fired yet. He's on the ropes. Trump doesn't want to fire anyone yet because he doesn't want to please the Democrats. He doesn't, Trump doesn't want to give in. So he's into a kind of political deception. He'll fire Waltz when something else happens. Something else bad happens. Putin does something stupid and Trump has to backtrack. And he says, oh, by the way, here's Waltz. I mean, he's keeping Waltz around. But if I was Waltz, I wouldn't feel so great about my position. Hegseth has dropped down as public enemy number one because he hid out in the Philippines. So I say in my column, someone should be fired for Signalgate. And I think you should be looking at 3, maybe even 4 people. And Tammy Duckworth essentially agreed with me. She thinks everyone on that chat, in terms of national security, was in dereliction of duty. Except for the inadvertently included reporter, of course, Jeffrey Goldberg, who did us a service by pointing out that someone was on that chat. I mean, here's the thing. The Trump administration loves to use national security as an excuse, as a pretext, right? To bolster the policy of harassing everyone, rounding up and deporting even legal immigrants with green cards or student visas. I mean, look at the student at Tufts, the student at Columbia. They're all pro-Palestinian protesters. The legal green card holders from the Philippines and Colombia. There was one case the LA Times reported, family from Colombia. They were picked up. They were legal. Now they're sent back and deported for some infraction, not unclear. But people who've been living here freely, longtime green card holders, they're all subject to deportation. And then there's this idea that, hey, I think we really should you should call this Signalgate. Call it Signalgate because the neologism is appropriate because every scandal that we see needs to compare with Watergate. And to the degree that it does or it doesn't, you can say, we can forget about this. But Signalgate compared to Watergate, Watergate was out there trying to steal an election. And then, of course, there was the cover-up. Signalgate was about national security. Not an election, but national security. We should be concerned about that. That's everybody, even the non-voters. And then you have the idea of national security justifying the harassment of innocent people. So national security, big issue. And then when it comes to national security, your top people talking on an unsecure public platform really making vulnerable all the people who were involved in that military operation in Yemen with the Houthis. Someone's got to pay the price for that blunder. And that's why Signalgate is important. I mean, what Tammy Duckworth said is that everyone involved in that chat should be fired. And believe me, if any of us, like regular folks, were in that chat and we had some kind of role and we did that, and we were in lesser roles than the Department of Defense or the Secretary of State or the DNI, the Department of National Intelligence, or Director of National Intelligence, we'd all be fired. And yet, Trump is very reluctant to do anything about his unqualified people, especially Pete Hegseth. Tulsi Gabbard, though, you got to worry about Tulsi Gabbard. She was lying under oath, saying, these aren't classified. These war plans, attack plans, whatever you go. Nothing classified was shared. Oh, yeah. Anyway, read my column. I talk about how Hegseth visited Bong Marcos. And, of course, here's the issue for the Philippines. You see how Pete Hegseth plays it fast and loose with secret material, so that if you were an ally in Europe, would you be willing to trust the United States with your secrets? Because the United States relied on secrets to know where the Houthis were in the signal chat. And they're talking on an unsecure line. If someone picked it up, they'd be able to say, this is where they could have endangered the whole mission. It was all enabled by foreign intelligence that was shared with the U.S. So here's the Philippines that has this big agreement with the U.S. that the U.S. is going to save or help the Philippines if Communist China does something. And that after everything with Signalgate, can the Philippines really can they feel secure that the U.S. is going to do the right thing? Say, I don't know. I mean, in some ways, maybe people are right when they say the Filipinos have no choice. The Filipinos, we're kind of like Ukraine. What choice do we have? Well, some people say, the Philippines can go with China. Now that would be, I don't know if that would be good. I mean, certainly, here's the problem with that. You go with China. Things are happening here to Americans who are seen as friendlier to China, or have some kind of connection to China. The one university just fired a researcher because of some arcane Florida law that said if you're involved in, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing arcane laws being used to single out people for no real good reason. They have no better reason, no suspicion other than the fact that they're Chinese or they're they're using a law to justify a racist pretext. I don't know. This is the world we live in now. So my column, I talk about, the Signalgate thing. I think we need to talk a little about Signalgate every day. And thank goodness for Senator Tammy Duckworth, an Asian American who she served in combat. She lost, her limbs there. She's the moral compass. Don't look to the commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, as the moral compass on this, who will insist on the idea that there's nothing there in Signalgate. He says, hey, nothing there. It's all, everything good. I'm going to release tariffs. Tariffs coming. Watch out. That's not good. Don't believe Trump on that. But here's Duckworth, who called Hegseth an effing liar. She told NBC News, this was last week, she said they should all lose their jobs. She's talking about all the people on that Signal chat. And she pointed out not a single one of them spoke up, and they all knew better. She said that is an egregious dereliction of duty, especially for those in the intelligence community. And she points out that Gabbard and John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, who was formerly director of national intelligence, all know what the rules are. And most of them haven't even admitted a mistake. The only person I've seen who have admitted that there's anything that went wrong in that Signal chat was Marco Rubio. So we've got this. I don't know where we're at on this. We should have continued calls for somebody's head. Preferably Pete Hegseth, because this is not the only time he's really screwed up on protocol, on showing just how inexperienced he is. Tulsi Gabbard, I think, would be next on the list. But Hegseth and Gabbard, certainly, they're unqualified. And then you have the merely incompetent Ratcliffe and Waltz. But I think the way it looks now, it's likely that Trump is going to stay put and fire. He's probably going to fire Waltz at some point. That's what it looks like. But not yet. He'll just let it simmer a while. And, he frankly has some political capital from the election, which he barely won. But, the polls suggest that he should watch out, that he should beware that if he thinks that he's infallible here. The latest Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs research poll came out. About half of U.S. adults approve of Trump's approach to immigration, but only 4 in 10 have a positive view of the way he's handling the economy and trade negotiations. So, and we're in a week where he's doing both. He's doing immigration things and sending people back, deporting people with green cards, legal green cards. And he's issuing the tariffs probably on Wednesday. And 4 in 10 here in the country only about 4 in 10 have a positive view of how he's handling the economy and trade, which means 60% have a negative view of that. So, or around 60%. So here's the latest numbers. Yeah, it's almost 50. It's pretty split on immigration. 49 approve, 50 strongly or somewhat disapprove. Government spending, only 46% approve, 51 on government spending. 51 disapprove. So that's where it's close. Where Trump is, where it's a coin flip. But where Trump should be concerned, the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, he's losing that 54-44, losing badly. He's losing on managing the federal government, 55-43. He's losing big on Social Security, 56-41. On the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, 56-41, Trump is losing. On the economy, 58-40, Trump is losing. And on trade and negotiation and trade negotiations with other countries, 60-38, Trump is losing. I'll just flash it up on the screen there. Do I have it? I guess I don't have that. But, I mean, this is, I would be alarmed. I'd say, Stephen Chung, help. The economy, 58-40. It's not close. I mean, 58% disapprove, even with the margin of error, 3 points margin of error. It's still over a majority disapproved, and only 40% approve. That is, I'd worry. You think Trump is doing well? The signs are out there saying, not that well, not that well. And it's kind of, let's see, let me get that. So here's the slide. See, the red is disapprove, the green is approve. And on the economic issues, vast disapproval. And that's the reason why people voted for the guy, right? You voted for the guy not because he was Democrat or Republican. You voted for him because, he's going to fix our economy. He's a businessman. Yeah, that's not working out. That is not working out. So that's a big takeaway. The stock market just poo-pooed today. So I don't know. I wouldn't be very positive. Wouldn't be very positive about where Trump is. How he's leading our country. Public opinion is against him. The Signal Chat thing is following him. Pete Hegseth is hiding out. J.D. Vance hid out in Greenland for a quick 4-hour run. He's back. But it's interesting because what Trump is doing is relying on this expansionist sense of where he wants America to go. Not only does he want America to go back to the 19th century, he wants American values to go back to the 19th century. I mean, this is the weird thing about the tech bros loving Trump, because Trump just wants the money, their money, but their vision about AI, well, he wants to be in on AI. But Trump feels more comfortable in the 19th century than he does in the 21st century. So I don't know. I don't know how anyone can say, you're doing a hell of a job, 47. I don't think so. Vance, I said, was in Greenland. And if you listen to some of the Greenlandic officials, they say, the U.S. already has a base. We're not interested in giving ourselves up as a colony. What the U.S. wants to do more in Greenland, fine, they can ask for it. They have that now. But the real issue is, I think the U.S. wants to break up NATO so that Putin can go in and destroy Europe. And then the United States has accomplished all it could for its partner and friend, Vladimir Putin, fellow autocrat. Trump has busted NATO, busted the U.S. economy, busted U.S. morale, and we're like kissing cousins with Russians. I mean, I think that's where it sounds like this is leading. I hope not. But that's where it sounds where it's leading. The other big story is fun. Of course, look, I like basketball. I follow basketball. But Duke, the first time I watched Cooper fight, he's good. And I'm not saying he's good for a white kid. No, he's good. 6'9", he can shoot, confidence, young guy. He's going to be a one and done. Heading off to the NBA. Impressive player. One of those once in a lifetime, super gifted kind of guys. So it was interesting. I wasn't watching, the Final Four with one eye, or not the Final Four. They're Sweet 16 or whatever they call it, the NCAA's. I was watching baseball, the first weekend of baseball. Boy, the Yankees, they were exciting. Hitting the first 3 pitches of Saturday's games, home runs. First 3 pitches. It was at home, so it was the bottom of the first. But the Yankees are going to be great. The Dodgers were also good. Oh, Filipino American Anthony Volpe didn't hit a home run in the first inning, but he came back in the third, made up for it, and hit a home run. He's half Filipino. He's good. Good. The Dodgers, I don't ordinarily like, but got to hand it to the Dodgers. Ohtani's great, but on Friday night, Mookie Betts had a night. Tied the score in the 8th. Game-winning home run in extras, I believe, 10th. Walk-off home run. Of course, it means nothing. It means nothing because we're just getting started, 162 games of baseball. But, you have games like that as milestones to say, come on, let's play ball. It's a great game. So, good baseball. But I want to talk about figure skating. Yeah, Alyssa Liu. Alyssa Liu made news when she became, let's see, where's that? At the World Figure Skating Championships. Incredible. She retired 3 years ago, right? From competitive. She's only 19. Alyssa Liu won a stunning world title in women's singles on Friday, the first for the U.S. in the event since 2006. And she beat 3-time defending world champion Kaori Sakamoto of Japan. Liu won both the short program and the free skate en route to an overall score of 222.97. Sakamoto finished second. And let's see, Amber Glenn of the U.S. finished fifth. But I saw her today on the Today Show, and I take, Alyssa Liu, Asian American, Chinese, but she looks like she's half Asian, right? So I checked it out, and her biography, her backstory is fascinating. She competed, or she won when she was just 13. She was like a champion. And then she came back when she was 16 and finished like 6th. And then she decided she was going to be going to concentrate on college. She's at UCLA. And then within the last couple of years, she, participated in some things less competitive and said, "Hey, I can do this again." And she's making her comeback. She's only 19, making a comeback at 19. That's how ridiculous, some of these individual sports are, where it helps if you're small. She's like 5'2", maybe 5'4", 5'5" on skates, but she's really not even at her prime yet. I mean, as a young person, she's, nimble, and she can do all sorts of things, right? Fly around the ice. She's still peaking, right? All right, so incredible. I hope to see more of Alyssa Liu. But I was reading about her backstory. She was born in Clovis, California. So she's an Asian American, right? The oldest child of Arthur Liu, who was an attorney who immigrated to the U.S. from Sichuan, China in the 90s when he was just 25. So Liu has 5 children. Or attorney, her father. And Alyssa is one of 5 children. And all of them were conceived through an anonymous egg donor and a surrogate mother. So she's half, because even though her father was married to Mary King Chin, and Liu refers to King Chin as the mother, even after divorce from Arthur, this is a complicated family. They're all the 5 children were from the sperm of Liu, the father, and a donated egg and surrogate. So it's wild, because I guess this is like hitting the lottery, or all the stars line up when your sperm, your Asian sperm, connects with a donated egg, and you don't know, the egg is an egg, right? Maybe they know the donor. Maybe they know it's an Asian donor or a white donor, but she looks white. We know that the father's Asian, so we presume from the way she looks that white mother, perhaps. White mother with athletic skating pedigree in the DNA, or something. Because Alyssa Liu was fantastic over the weekend at the Worlds, but the backstory gets even more interesting, because you'll remember back in 2022, there was a plan by China to naturalize overseas athletes for the Beijing Winter Games. Remember Eileen Gu? This is why Eileen Gu is skating over there, even though she's born and raised in San Francisco. And I talked about this. I mean, we didn't pick on Eileen Gu, but she was the news story. She was the one who said, "Yeah, we'll go. We'll take your money. I'm dual." And that was a big story for the 2022 Beijing Games. Aside from the Uyghurs, that was a big story. But in March of 2022, there were reports that Liu and her father were being targeted, not to be on the team, because she had retired, remember. The father came here as a political refugee because he participated in the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989. So they were being targeted by spies allegedly under the direction of the Chinese government. And they were trying to collect private information on Chinese political dissidents living in the U.S. And one spy even posed as a U.S. Olympic Committee member to get their passport. So there was a lot of cloak and dagger stuff here last year. Now, this is where I find it interesting that because of all this, if you're skating, do you let it bother you? Say, I can't skate under these conditions. I mean, she stayed loyal to the U.S. She didn't go back and repatriate, unlike Eileen Gu. Eileen Gu, who's also, I believe, still a part-time Stanford student, if she hasn't graduated already. I think it was her 22 would have been her, I think her freshman year, 23 her freshman year. So she's like a sophomore or junior. But Alyssa Liu went to UCLA and said, "Hey, I'm retired." And the story goes that she was just in a very modest competition, and it lit the fire again. So amazing. And I hope to hear more from Alyssa Liu, as I guess in 2 years we're at the Olympics. Of course, she'll be 22. Maybe she'll be at the height of her power. Who knows? But she was flawless. First time in 19 years a U.S. skater, a U.S. women's skater has won at the internationals, at the worlds. And so many sports going on between that and the basketball and the baseball. I just kind of ducked for the most part and did some other things. But I found the Alyssa Liu story just fascinating. And, you know, if you don't, we look at Signalgate and we see how top secret folks go on something encrypted like Signal and think they can speak and everything's all right. But it's not all right. I mean, here was the explanation. It's all right when you send messages over the air, through the internet. It's not all right when the information resides on your phone, and that can get hacked. So easily enough. Anyway. Oh, and then if you saw Saturday Night Live, and a number of jokes about the key joke that I got, or that I heard, was when they joked that Mike Waltz said, "I don't know how that number got into my phone. I hear that there's something that sucks a number into a phone." Now, I don't know about sucking numbers because I'm not on the dating apps or that kind of thing. But apparently it's a thing. No, well, according to Waltz, numbers get sucked in, and then how do they get sucked out? I don't know. Maybe he's talking about not Signal, but a dating app. Maybe that's it. I don't know. All right, we're trying to end these things early. Alyssa Liu, follow her story. That's a fascinating story, the Alyssa Liu story. And write to your congressman and say, "Hey, we need a head to go with Signalgate. We need a new head." And Pete Hegseth, I think that's the head that fits. I think. So we'll end this here and come back tomorrow. Hey, we like to end our shows with a little loving kindness. Sure, we're not loving kindness. Yeah, even him, I like him. I mean, I'd be friendly to Trump. Trump's meeting with Bill Maher. Says he's meeting with Bill Maher out of respect for a request by Kid Rock. Now, there's some strange bedfellows. Kid Rock says, "Yeah, Donnie, my man, meet Bill Maher," and so they're going to have dinner. And Bill Maher, this is part of this idea that how do we bridge the gap? This is something that Democrats, and especially the progressive ones, are going to have to deal with. Is it capitulation if you even talk to the enemy? There's a lot of people who, if you give someone from the right or a MAGA type, the time of day, you've given that person a platform. Bad. Well, in lieu of nothing coming from the Democrats, it is bad. But in some ways, it makes sense to try to reach out and not appease, but to really work together. Now, sounds idealistic. It'd be nice if the Republicans believed the same instead of constantly filing suits when there's an inch of progress and then there's a suit to deny that inch of progress. Like right now, there's a suit filed by Republicans to try to stop district judges from making policy from the bench. They're not making policy from the bench. They're stopping the Republicans from doing something illegal or unconstitutional. That's not that's not making policy from the bench. To uphold the Constitution for, just as an example, birthright citizenship, that's not making policy. That's reaffirming policy. But it's a subtle difference. And, the loser doesn't like that they can stop it. So now here comes another suit saying, all right, we're not going to allow district judges to make policy. And then that's going to be, this is the world we're in, the litigious world that Donald Trump has created. And it would be a lot better. I think you want a guy like Sleepy Joe, because he's too tired to do the dirty work that Donald Trump is doing. Believe me, Donald Trump doesn't do half the dirty work. It's on automatic pilot. He's got people. I mean, he didn't even know about Signal Chat when it first broke. He said, whoa, what is this? All right, we're sending out the love. We're sending out the love vibe. It's better. It's better. Thank you for listening. I'm Emil Guillermo. EmilGuillermo.media on Facebook, on Twitter at X at Emil Amok. We like to close with a little loving kindness. Really, really, you got to lead with love. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you. Till next time. Mahal Kita.